You know, what really makes you, you? For the longest time, the main idea in psychology was that we're basically like little pressure cookers, right? Just constantly trying to manage all this internal conflict. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the real driving force of our lives isn't about conflict at all, but about connection? That's the powerful idea we're going to dive into today, the concept of the autonomous self.
So, here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start by taking a look at an older idea about what really drives us as people and why it might be incomplete. Then we'll explore how our relationships actually build our inner world, and that's going to lead us right to the heart of this whole thing, the autonomous self. After that, we'll zoom out and see how all this stuff applies not just to us, but to society as a whole. And hopefully, we'll end up with a brand new way of seeing what it even means to be human. Okay, so to really get this new perspective, we first have to kind of go back in time a little. We need to understand the old way of thinking, the theory that this new idea completely turned on its head. It's a way of seeing human nature in a very different light.
And this is where you see the huge shift in thinking. So on one side, you've got the old model, drive theory. It basically saw people as these isolated, closed-off systems. Remember that pressure cooker idea? That's it. All we're trying to do is let off steam. But then, on the other side, you get this new wave of thinkers, people like psychoanalyst Sutherland, and they propose something truly revolutionary. They said, wait a minute, what if our most basic drive isn't about releasing pressure at all? What if it's about finding real, meaningful connection with other people?
And that question, man, it just changes everything. Because according to Sutherland, our deepest, most fundamental need isn't just, satisfying some random impulse. No, it's this deep, profound, lifelong quest for emotional contact, for recognition, for a meaningful bond. And when you think about it that way, it totally reframes our entire reason for being here.
Okay, but here's where it gets really fascinating. Those early relationships, the really important ones, they don't just fade away into old memories. No, they actually become a permanent part of our psychological DNA. They literally build the architecture of our minds. In a very real way, those people and those connections, they continue to live and breathe right inside of us.
So how does that even work? Well, it happens through a process called internalization. And here's a good way to think about it. We don't just remember our parents or the people who took care of us. It's so much deeper than that. We literally absorb those relationships. And in doing so, we create this internal blueprint that ends up shaping how we see absolutely everything, the world, other people, and especially ourselves for the rest of our lives.
And this brings us to a really core concept called object relations theory. Now, I know, that sounds super technical, right? But the idea behind it is actually incredibly simple and beautiful. The objects they're talking about aren't physical things. They're the internalized versions of the most important people in our lives. So what that means is all of us are walking around with this internal cast of characters, our own personal version of our mom, our dad, our brothers and sisters, and they're all in there, continuing to influence us long, long after we've grown up.
And one thing to really get is that these internal figures, they're not perfect photographs. They're not carbon copies. They're more like our personal imprints of those people, and they're colored by everything we felt, our love, our frustrations, our joy, our pain. They're really the emotional residue, the psychological leftovers of our most powerful early experiences.
This is why this theory is just so powerful. I mean, have you ever wondered why you seem to be drawn to the same type of person over and over again? Or why you sometimes find yourself replaying old family arguments, but now it's with your boss? Well, this is why. We're unconsciously seeing new people through the lens of these old, powerful, internalized relationships.
So, okay, we've got this rich, complex inner world of relationships. But what's at the center of it all? What's the organizing principle? Well, this question brings us right to the heart of Sutherland's life's work, the concept of the autonomous self.
For Sutherland, the self isn't just another piece of the puzzle. It is the puzzle box. It's what he called the essential organizing principle. Think of it like the conductor of an orchestra. It's the active central force of our entire being. It's not some passive thing just getting bounced around by conflict. It's an active driving force, always striving for wholeness, for growth, and for connection.
And this leads to a really powerful idea, one that was first explored by a psychoanalyst named D.W. Winnicott. It's the difference between the true self and the false self. Your true self, that's the core of who you are. It's spontaneous, it's creative, it feels real and alive. It's the you that shows up when you feel safe enough to not have to pretend.
But then there's the false self, and that's more like a protective mask we wear. It's that compliant, people-pleasing side that comes out when we're afraid our true self will be rejected or ignored. You know that feeling of just playing a part in your own life? That's the false self at work.
You know, for Sutherland, this wasn't just some abstract theory. He really lived it. Later in his life, he actually founded the Scottish Institute of Human Relations. And this was an organization dedicated to creating exactly the kind of supportive, validating places where people's true selves could actually come out and flourish. His life's work was really a testament to his own personal journey toward finding that authenticity.
All right, now here's where we zoom out. Because this theory, it isn't just about what's going on inside one person. These same principles, they scale up perfectly. They give us a blueprint for understanding the health of our families, our teams at work, and yeah, even our entire society. Just think about it for a second. It starts with the individual, right? A healthy person needs to feel seen and valued. Okay, now scale that up to a family. A healthy family is one where every person is valued for who they are, inside the connected whole. Scale it up again to a work group. The most effective teams aren't just about the to-do list. They're about the emotional needs of the people doing the work. And finally, you get to the level of an entire institution. The ones that really thrive are the ones that act like learning systems, supporting the autonomy of everyone inside them.
So what does all this show us? It reveals that this constant dance, this dynamic tension between our need to be our own person, our autonomy, and our need to belong, that's not just a personal struggle. It's the central organizing principle of all human systems. It means the recipe for a healthy person and the recipe for a healthy society are basically the same thing.
So, when you put all of these pieces together, what do you see? This journey we've been on, through all of Sutherland's ideas, it paints a completely new and, I think, a deeply hopeful picture of who we really are.
This is that new image of man. We're not isolated little machines just chugging along on our own. We're open systems. We're in a constant conversation with the world around us. And to survive, to thrive, we need something Sutherland called a psychosocial metabolism. I love that phrase. It means we need a constant intake of recognition, of being valued, of being confirmed by others, just to maintain our very sense of who we are. It's like emotional oxygen.
And this is where we arrive at the great, beautiful paradox at the very heart of this entire idea. True autonomy, that real freedom to be a creative, independent, authentic person. It doesn't come from cutting yourself off from everyone. It's not about radical separation. It's actually a gift. It's the freedom that can only grow from a solid foundation of secure, loving, and reliable connections with other people.
So in the end, this new vision, it's not just some dusty old theory. It's really an invitation. It's an invitation for all of us to look at our own lives, our relationships, our work, our communities, and to ask ourselves a really profound question. What does my autonomous self, my true self, need to really thrive? And maybe even more importantly, how can we start to build a world where every single person has the chance to find their own answer to that question?